Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, this week's tarot spread, if you're a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot spreads to dive into topics related to living an intentional life. And this week's tarot spread is focused on the idea of blockage, being blocked. Have you ever felt that? I think we all have, many times in our lives, perhaps frequently in a year. When we think of being blocked, where do we place the source of that blockage? Where do we think that block originates? That's what we're going to be diving into in this spread. And it's an important idea when we think of living an intentional life, because the process or our ability to flow with the powerful force of intention relies on our perceptions and our understanding of what is happening and where we're going and what we believe and how we feel. Because living an intentional life is an emotional journey, and that feeling of blockage is a cause of resistance. So this is a very important topic. And so, friends, we have the tarot spread laid out. Let's take a look at it. These are gorgeous cards, aren't they? The creators of these decks are brilliant, and they work so beautifully together, amazingly together. Now, if you're curious about the decks and the creators, as usual, there will be a short clip at the end of this video with the names of the decks and the names of the creators. And also, in the description box below, there will be links if you want to go and purchase some of these decks on your own, or most of these decks. Unfortunately, we can't buy all of them because one of these decks is completely out of print. Even the factory seconds have been sold off. But there will be a link below if you want to go to the creator's website. This creator has developed 2 tarot decks so far, both of them exquisite. And if you get yourself on a mailing list, you might be able to find out when this creator puts out another deck. I would highly recommend that. So friends, we just saw the full spread. And you saw that there are 3 cards in the center which give us the main idea of the spread. And then around it there are 4 questions being answered by sets of 2 tarot cards. But first, let's dive into that central spread of oracle cards and look at the main idea of this spread. So friends, you saw those 3 cards. The first one is blocked. The second, mystery. The third, path. And did you notice how there was a flow of image from one to the other? And the blocked card, there were large circles, dark, very, very gloomy looking. Now, in the next card, mystery, those circles formed into geometric shapes with light coming out, sort of like a path, which led us directly to the third card, which is path, right? We see a path indicated in the third card. So there's a beautiful flow from one card to the other in this 3-card spread. 3 cards. Let's start with blocked. Blockage. Have you ever felt blocked? Have you ever felt that you were facing an obstacle, large or small? Have you ever felt that you'd come to a dead end of some sort? And there are many kinds of blockages. Yeah? Things like writer's block. Writer's block is a very famous phrase. Yeah, I've got writer's block. Or artists feel a very similar feeling when creating art many times. Actors can feel the same way. Yeah? When we have a creative engagement that we are working on, oftentimes there will appear some kind of block, a drying up. But there are other kinds of blocks. Yeah? We may feel that someone is preventing us or something is preventing us from moving forward. We may feel that we keep moving in a direction, but whatever we have been chasing has disappeared. We've reached a dead end. We may feel that we just don't have the strength to move on. That could be a kind of obstacle as well. Now, when we think of these various obstacles, where do we place the source of the obstacles? Do we place blame on other people or on circumstances around us? Now, sometimes blockages are due to circumstances. Yeah? There are times when we are driving down a road and there is an actual block in front of us. Yeah? Perhaps the police have put their cars blocking off the road. And it seems like that is clearly an outside source of our blockage. But remember, we have chosen to go down this path. That doesn't mean that we have made the wrong choice. We haven't failed in some way by choosing to go down the path where the police car has blocked off progress, our progression. Now, we may certainly have learned many things or observed many things or discovered things on the journey to that blockage. However, we did make the choice to go down that road. So no blockage is 100% and from an external source. Now, we are always co-creating whatever is happening in our lives. And most of the creation in our lives is happening from within us. We are making choices. We are sometimes resisting. Can you imagine that perhaps most of what we experience as blockage is an indication of perhaps our own resistance? Our resistance to many things. Perhaps our fear of success. That happens. Perhaps our fear of failure. That happens. Yeah? We get so afraid of failing, we don't take the next step. It could be other circumstances that have distracted us and made us feel like we are unable to progress forward, including physical strength, energy may be depleted by other things going on in our lives or other activities, or physical problems can rob us of our energy and make us feel like we have reached a dead end, that an obstacle has come up in front of us. There are many kinds of apparent dead ends and obstacles. When I felt an obstacle recently, when I lost my job recently, that felt like a dead end. It certainly looked like a dead end. But now I've gotten another job. However, at that time, it felt like a very dead end. And it took discernment. And that's what the next step of this card is trying to remind us of. When we feel like there are obstacles there, when we feel like there are things blocking our way, when we feel like we have reached a dead end, instead of, what do you think? What is your first reaction to those obstacles, those dead ends? Many people I know try to power through. Some people I know, in anger, try to break, bust, destroy the blockage. Some people sit down in an emotional state of giving up. Some people turn around and walk the other way. What is your typical response to a blockage? Does that response always work, or has it worked most of the time? This is where discernment is being asked of us. This blockage, this dead end, if we can look at it, I think appropriately, is a gift. Can you understand? Can you accept the possibility that a dead end or a block or an obstacle is actually a gift, is actually a boon, a benefit to us? That's a very difficult thing to wrap our heads around, because we think of the necessity for continued progress, which is the whole idea of living an intentional life. Yeah? When we live an intentional life, when we're open to the flow of intention, we know that we're moving constantly forward in the direction of the intentions that we have set out for ourselves. And then when the block comes up, when an obstacle comes up, when we feel like we've reached a dead end, we think, oh my gosh, I'm not flowing with intention. So how can we reconcile that? That's where discernment comes in. First, let's think of a river. Have you ever seen a river with rocks in it? Have you ever seen a river with many rocks? They're called rapids many times. Have you seen rocks in a river? What happens to the river? Does the river stop? Even when there are many, many rocks, does that look like they are completely blocking the path of the river? Does the river stop? Or does it find a way to go around? That's what intention is doing for us and with us when we come to an obstacle. Sometimes that obstacle is a gift. It's a gift showing us that we actually want to find another way, to move in another direction. Discernment is needed, is called for, is asked for when we come up to an obstacle. And rather than looking at it with anger and frustration and anxiety or a feeling of powerlessness. Now, of course, if those feelings come up, we want to accept them. We don't want to resist them, because the moment we try to resist, oh, I feel anger coming up, I shouldn't feel anger. The moment we feel that anxiety is coming up and we try to repress and say, no, I shouldn't be anxious. I want to live intentionally. When we push those emotions down or try to hide them or deny them, they only grow larger, because anything we give energy to will expand and grow. And resistance to our emotions is giving energy to those emotions. Even if we ignore them for the time being, they're growing somewhere. And will want to be dealt with sometime later, if not now. So if we feel those feelings arising, the anxiety, oh my God, I'm never going to get past this, I'm never going to get through this, I'm never going to get around it. The anger, why is this happening to me? Why are you, or why is this here? If those feelings come up, first we want to acknowledge them. Acknowledge that they're there, because they're a signal, and they're part of the discernment process. Those feelings may be an indication of what has led us to this obstacle, or this blockage, or this feeling of dead-endedness. So first, discernment is required, is asked of us. Discern first, what am I feeling about this obstacle? Discern, how have I come to this obstacle? Is it something that is here because of something that has been festering within me? Is this obstacle here to show me that, not that I'm on the wrong path, we are never on the wrong path, but that I want to take either a left or a right-hand turn? That moving forward in this direction is probably not the best idea for me. Is it here to show me that maybe I want to take a step back and just wait and observe? Not in powerlessness, not in worthlessness, not in unworthiness, like I'm unworthy to move forward, so I have to step back. But rather to step back so we get a wider picture. Yeah? Sometimes when we get in front of an obstacle, we plaster it on the front of our face and we're just staring at this obstacle in resistance. And so what we need to do is take a step back to get a wider view. So we're not so attached to the obstacle. Because we get attached to our obstacles many times. And oftentimes, even when we get around the obstacle, we're carrying them with us as we tell the story of the obstacle over and over and over again. Sometimes we drag all of our obstacles along with us as we keep trying to trudge forward, rather than letting them go and allowing ourselves to move with a powerful flow of intention. Have you ever noticed yourself doing that? Carrying your obstacles around with you and then pulling them out and showing them to people? Here, look at my obstacle. Now, sometimes, if we can treat them lightheartedly, like there was this time that I lost my job and I got a new job and it's so wonderful. Or there's the other way. I lost my job. And I just don't feel like I'm worthy anymore. I know that I'm not good enough. Help me, do something for me, fix me. Asking for help is fine. Asking for help is good. Asking for help is actually one of the best things we can do. And hopefully that help will be showing us that we are worthy. We are able. We can let that obstacle go. But there are times in our lives when we, instead of actually look for and accept help, what we do is we just show how burdened we are by all of the obstacles that we're facing. And that is not helpful to us or to living an intentional life. So, discernment. What do I want to do? Do I want to take a step back and observe the broader picture? Do I want to look for a path to the left or the right? Do I want to see what in me has drawn me to this obstacle? What is the resistance teaching us? Because every exterior experience is a reflection of our interior, what we call interior lives. So the obstacle that arises is a reflection of an obstacle within. If we can also understand that discernment of, okay, there's this obstacle. What in me is this reflecting? What in me is this showing to me? And I think we always want to do that step. When we come into an obstacle, when we come to a dry patch, when we come to a block of some kind, we want to look inside and find out, what is that reflecting? What is that mirroring to us? And if then we can move to the next card, the mystery. Delving into the mystery that this obstacle is teaching us. Because these obstacles are here for our benefit. If we can accept that, they are here for our benefit. They are here to teach us a mystery. There are mysterious forces from within that are helping us create our lives, because those mysterious forces are us. Our unconscious minds, our eternal selves, those mysterious aspects of us are moving with us and are showing us and are teaching us every moment of every day. And they're enigmatic, sure. And that enigma is something we want to delve into and explore. We want to dive deep into the mystery that this obstacle is showing us. And if we can, we will discover jewels, we will discover blessings, we will discover benefits, we will discover our path again, afresh, anew. We will discover, if we take this obstacle, this block, as a mystery to dive into, And then we will find our path. We will not find our path. Let me say that again. We will rediscover that we are on our path. We will notice the path more clearly, more certainly, with more confidence. Because we have never left the powerful flow of intention. Now, in this card, we notice the path card. We notice these flags, right? There are flags, which are like Tibetan, Buddhist, and also Korean shamanistic traditional objects, shall we say? They're symbolic in a sense, but they're here to remind us of things and to ward off things and to show us things. And in this card, this path of colored fabric is showing us our path. Perhaps the path to our inner sanctum, to our inner temple. Perhaps the path to our self-realization, to our self-actualization, to the realization of the intentions that we have set in our path. Because we are always on our path. We are always on our path. That obstacle has not blocked our path. It's just showing us that we either want to go to the left, to the right, or take a moment and wait for the obstacle to disintegrate, to melt away. And that happens sometimes. Now, writer's block. Writers, almost all writers will notice that that writer's block will eventually disintegrate. So sometimes that block is here to show us to just take a moment and reflect and notice. And when we do that, we notice the path appearing again more clearly in front of us, or to the right or to the left. Because then we have released our grip on the obstacle or on whatever that has caused the obstacle to arise. And both, arrive and arise. Our path is always there. And sometimes it's clear. Sometimes it's hazy. It often shifts around obstacles. But it's always there. And if we dive into the mystery of these obstacles or these blockages, and we allow ourselves to open to them and receive the information, our path will reveal itself again. And will reveal itself to us right below our feet, because we've never been off of it. And we want to trust that we are steadily moving forward with the powerful flow of intention toward our greatest good. And so this obstacle sometimes is that blessing, showing us that we want to go in a slightly different direction, or that we want to take a moment. Because rushing forward has not been serving us. Now, there are several ways of interacting with this powerful flow of intention. One is to open ourselves to the flow and move with it. Sometimes we resist and we sink, but we're still moving very slowly, but we're moving forward. Sometimes we turn around and try to run the opposite direction because we think we're not working hard enough going with the flow of our intention. And we want to work hard so we get the prizes, we get the recognition. All of our effort is showing how successful we are. So sometimes in order to work hard, we turn in the opposite direction and try walking against the stream. And sometimes we think flowing with the flow of our own intention is not moving us fast enough, and we try to run forward on the surface or in the water. And it's that trying to rush forward that's another kind of resistance, a resistance to what is. And sometimes that's one of the reasons that blockage comes up, that obstacle comes up, to show us that, look, calm down, relax, flow with your intention, enjoy the ride. Because the ride is taking us. The ride is taking us one way or the other. So can you see how these obstacles, these blockages, may actually be a blessing for us, may actually be of benefit to us? And if we can accept them, dive into their mystery, understand why they are here, how we have brought ourselves here, then with faith and trust in ourselves and intention, our path will appear again if it has been hazy, if it has seemed blocked. So friends, we're going to move on to the 4 questions. Let's take a look at that first one. The first question is, what if I were free? And what could be a more perfect question for this spread, moving from the idea of resistance and mystery and then seeing the path? What if I were free? Free of the obstacle, free of the block. And we have 2 answers to this question. As usual, we have the Page of Staves, which is the Page of Wands in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And we have Air, which is an extra card in the Majestic Earth Tarot. Yeah? There are 4 element cards in that deck, and one of them is Air. And in the Page of Staves, we have the image of an interior, yeah, looking a little bit decorated with flowers, right? And the usual interpretation of the Page of Wands is inspiration, yeah, discovery, limitless potential. So if I were free, these are all the things that I would be feeling. Free spirit. Feeling motivated and energetic. If I felt free, even with an obstacle facing me, what if I felt free? I would feel inspired by this obstacle, inspired to discover a new way around, or a different tactic, or new ways of solving things. Discovery of new solutions. I'd feel my limitless potential if I felt free in the face of my obstacles. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt, looking at an obstacle, that, this is something that I can really dive into and explore. What are the solutions? This is really interesting. Yeah, that kind of researcher's approach to a problem. Have you ever felt that? It can be very interesting, exciting, and motivating. Sometimes our obstacles can actually be motivating, if we allow them to be. Yeah? We can feel free, even in the presence of an obstacle, even in the presence of an apparent dead end, because we trust that there is no dead-endedness. And if we felt free, we would feel all of that. And the next card, Air, is an interesting card, because Air is the card or the element of mind. It's the element of thought and communication. In this card, we see it looks like a big storm is brewing. And it looks like it might be a little bit dark, a little bit perhaps even dangerous. But you notice that there is a path through the turmoil that is brewing. Air, the idea of thoughts. If I were free, I would be free to think freely. And in thinking freely, I would discover new possibilities, new paths, new solutions, new understanding of how this obstacle or dead end arose. It's the card of communication. If I felt free, I would be able to communicate freely, and perhaps even ask for help when it is required. Not just because I feel worthless or unworthy or incapable, but just because I notice that I need some help. It's a card of spiritual energy as well. If I felt free, I would feel my spiritual power, which would help me move so much more freely around, or perhaps even through the obstacle, or to sustain my momentum as I step back and observe. Now that's also asking for spiritual energy. When we take that step back and observe, we don't want to step back in defeat. We want to step back in, okay, let's look at this. Let's observe. Let's appreciate, in the fullest sense of the word, appreciate what is going on. So if I were free, I could do all of that, even with an obstacle, even with a storm brewing. And that's what intention, the powerful force of intention, is helping us with, if we can allow it. Let's take a look at the second question. The second question, what needs to be balanced, is a perfect question, particularly when we see the answers to this question. Now, on one side, we have the Queen of Swords. On the other side, we have the Rider of Water, which is the Knight of Cups in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And what a perfect pairing for balance, if you ask me. Yeah, mind and emotion. Air and water. Mind and emotion. That's what we want to have balanced, especially when we're facing an obstacle. We want to have both of them in play. If we're all mind, we can run out of energy. If we're all emotion, we can get confused and unable to focus ourselves. We want to have that balance. And this pairing, I think, is perfect. The Queen and the Knight. The Queen of Swords, the independent thinker. And when we come up to an obstacle or a dead end, that's exactly what we want, to be able to think independently. The unbiased person, the one with clear, pure, good judgment. That's what we want. We want both of those. We want to have clear boundaries as well. Yeah? We want to have boundaries so that we can feel secure enough to observe what is going on. Now we need to have those boundaries, in a sense, not so much defensive boundaries. We want permeable boundaries, but we want to clear space away so that things don't distract us, don't come in and pull us in other directions when we want to really observe what is going on. And that's totally Queen of Swords. We want to have direct communication, externally, but also internally. We want to have that clear communication internally so that we can delve into that mystery. And we want to feel astute, knowledgeable, mentally able to move around, discern, investigate. We want to feel astute. And that's Queen of Swords as well. So when we come up into these situations, feeling free, we want to embody our Queen of Swords. We want to have the ability to think independently, not follow everybody else's advice, but think independently. How do I respond to my obstacle, my dead end? And then we also want to have the emotional energy behind that, within that, the freedom. Because the Queen of Swords can sometimes get a little bit rigid, a little bit cold. And to balance that out with the Knight of Cups is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And in this card, of the Majestic Earth card, we see a very romantic kind of river scene, right? Which we can remind ourselves of the powerful flow of intention through this card as well. Because, again, the flow of intention is an emotional journey. And who better to take that journey than the Knight of Cups, the Knight of Water? He's creativity. He is romance and charm. Yeah? Our romance can kindle our energy, our emotional energy to sustain the intellectual effort. Our creativity. Now, we not only want to analyze problems or obstacles, we also want to have creative solutions. It's the card of imagination, imagining beyond the obstacle, imagining around the obstacle, also imagining from within. What can I imagine this obstacle, this dead end is teaching me? It's the card of beauty, to be able to recognize the beauty of right now, no matter what I'm looking at. And that is a perfect balance to the Queen of Swords, the clear thinker, the analyst, the unbiased judge, the independent thinker, but also the creative one, the romantic one. Balancing both of these will give us such an abundance of possibilities. And that's what we want when we're facing an obstacle or a dead end. Possibilities, ideas, ways of moving around, ways of moving over, moving through, ways of observing and understanding. So friends, we're going to go to the third question. Let's take a look. I think you may be noticing that there are a lot of water element cards in this spread. Now we've had the Rider of Water, the Knight of Cups, and here we have two more water cards, answering the question, what would be perfect? So what would be perfect? The answer to that question is an emotional answer. What would be perfect in the face of an obstacle? And the first card is the Eight of Cups, which was a little bit, I guess, unhappily expected. It's a reminder that when we have come up to a dead end, when we have come up to an obstacle, we don't want to cling to it. And a lot of us, I myself as well, have clung to our obstacles as badges of honor or proof that we are able to overcome. We don't need that proof. We don't need those badges. They are unnecessary and immaterial on the life of intention. Because we are worthy just being us. We don't need the badges. We don't need any of that stuff. So the Eight of Cups, what do we see? We see pots in a very disheveled, depressing looking garden shed, it looks to me. Yeah, we have pots, old clay pots that used to hold flowers or other plants. This is the card of disappointment. It's a card of leaving behind, of withdrawal and detachment, which is exactly what we want to do when we have come up to our obstacle, to our blockage. We want to, acknowledge our disappointment when it arises. It will probably arise. And then we want to leave it behind. When we're able to perceive what's going on, perceive a path, perceive what has brought this obstacle to us from within us, our next step is to let it go, to leave it behind, to detach from it, if we can. Not repress it, not hide it, not be embarrassed by it, but to let it go. Now, remember Frozen, Let It Go? That was a different kind of let it go. Yeah? This is the kind of let it go where you let it go past you. Not let your power go, although that is also a good idea, to let your power out of its cage, certainly. But here we're talking about blockage. We want to let that blockage go. Because the Eight of Cups is also a reminder of our spiritual journey. We are on a spiritual journey because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so, as we move past, beyond, through our obstacles, we want to recall that this is all part of our spiritual journey. And that's wonderful. That is a blessing. And the next is the Ace of Water, the Ace of Cups in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The card of love. That would be perfect. Leaving the obstacle behind, and as we feel free, re-experience our love. Because that's who we are. We are love. Love is not only something that we experience or something that we do. It is who we are. We are love. It's a card of new relationships. And perhaps this obstacle is in our path so that we move in the direction to meet somebody else. Whether that relationship is a sexual or a loving romantic relationship, or it's a relationship of teacher-student, or it's a relationship of co-workers or friends, a new relationship. And re-experiencing our compassion for ourselves, especially our compassion. That's the Ace of Cups as well. It's the card of creativity and abundance. So as we leave the block, as we leave the obstacle, as we leave the dead end behind, reconnecting with our creativity and our feeling, our knowledge of abundance. That's what we want to do. That is what would be perfect, moving beyond the block, moving beyond the obstacle. Let's take a look at the fourth question. This last question is the most perfect, the most beautiful, the most important. What am I responsible for? Because we are responsible for our own experiences of our lives. Always. And that is perhaps even more so when we are experiencing an obstacle or a feeling of dead-endedness. What am I responsible for? That's a very good question. And we have two answers. First is the Empress. The Empress has some water associated with her. And also the Seven of Water, which is the Seven of Cups. We're responsible for both of these things. And you notice how remember in the last card, the Ace of Water was a flowing river through a mountain stream. Yeah, that's what we want to be feeling. Our river of intention is like that. And here when we come to the Empress, we see an outdoor pond, perhaps with a fountain. And the Empress is the card of fertility, the card of abundance and creativity. Again, we have the reminder of creativity. We are responsible for our own creativity. We are responsible for our feeling or our knowledge of abundance. We are responsible for our own fertility. And we're responsible for beauty and nature, acknowledging it and interacting with it and recognizing it at all times of our lives. Because when we can do that, when we can experience the beauty of who we are and where we are, and all of nature, because we are here on this earth by choice. We are here because we wanted to be here, in nature, among other spirits having human experiences. And as we appreciate and feel gratitude for that. We take responsibility for our creativity. We take responsibility for the abundance that is here for us. Because the abundance is always here. The question is, are we acknowledging it? Do we know it? Do we believe it? Do we trust it? And then the Seven of Water, the Seven of Cups, one of my favorite cards in the deck, is the card of opportunities. We are responsible for our own opportunities. Even in the face of obstacles, even in the face of blockage, we are responsible for our opportunities, which is why we take the dive into the mystery. To be able to discern the reason for the obstacle and the opportunities that are available to us, because there are always opportunities. Always opportunities. It's the card of choices. We want to make choices. We're responsible for our choices. The choices that led us here to the blockage, and the choices of where we're going to go, how we're going to respond to the blockage. But it's also the card of daydreams and imagination, and we're responsible for that. A lot of times when we come to a block, an obstacle, we lose our ability to daydream, to envision a future, to think wishfully, to wish in allowance, to wish in love. Sure, sometimes we wish in resistance. I wish this would go away. I wish things were different. I wish. Those are not the kinds of wishes of the Seven of Cups. The kinds of wishes of the Seven of Cups are more the Cinderella kind of wishes of, I wish life were like this. I wish I lived in a castle. I wish I had a handsome partner. Yeah, the Seven of Cups, we're responsible for our ability to daydream, which is part of our creativity. Our ability to create begins with our ability to dream creatively, to dream in abundance, to dream in love, to dream in joy. And that's what our reminder of the Seven of Cups is, to be able to take responsibility for daydreaming, for dreaming our way around. Friends, do you see how this has flown so beautifully from recognizing the obstacle, the blockage, to diving into the mystery of it and discovering what it's here to teach us? And then noticing that our path has appeared. And realizing that we are free. And in our freedom, we have the ability to discover and to think, to communicate, and discover our spiritual path and our spiritual energy. And then to notice that to move around the obstacle, to deal with the obstacle, we want to be balanced, both mind and heart. And the perfect thing would be if we took the emotional journey, to let the obstacle go after we've plumbed it for all of the juice that is within it, after we've drained all the juice out of the obstacle, to let it go. To let it go and rediscover our love and our sense of abundance and creativity. And then we take responsibility for our own fertility, our own abundance, our daydreams. We take responsibility to daydream. I think this is a beautiful reading. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear the different ways you have responded to obstacles. Have you noticed a pattern to how you respond to obstacles or to feelings of blockage? Let me know below. And like this, if it has meant something to you, if you found meaning to this video, share if you think there are people around who might benefit from listening to this. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell. And comment below. I really would love to hear from you. And remember, in just a moment, there will be information about the decks. And before I leave you, let me wish you, as always, love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.